was not a crime of happenstance or wrong place, wrong time. It was a cold-blooded contract killing.
The evidence is clearly circumstantial evidence. When it's picked apart, you'll see that it exonerates Mr. Adelson.
There's overwhelming evidence against him and multiple members of his family that they were behind Dan's murder.
He's been free and has not fled, has not committed a crime. There's no reason to believe he will do so now.
Charlie Adelson, a dentist from a family of dentists. His father was a dentist, mother worked in the office, millions of dollars, incredible success. He drove around in the red Ferrari and hooked up with the sassy young bottle girl named Catherine McBanoa. But he's accused of orchestrating the murder of his sister's ex-husband because of a custody battle. You see, the Adelsons lived in South Florida, and Dan Markel, FSU law professor, lived in Tallahassee. He was a loving father, did not want to be separated from his children, and was winning in court against his ex-wife, Wendy. But the Adelsons allegedly wanted those kids in South Florida so bad that Charlie ordered a hit on his ex-brother-in-law. Court TV legal correspondent Julie Janae joining us live tonight outside the congregation. I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but I think it's Shamrei Torah, a synagogue in Tallahassee, Florida. All right. Why are you there? What's happening in Tallahassee tonight?
Vinny, there was a packed house here just moments ago. Everyone has cleared out now, but it was a moving event that was led by Ruth Markel. This synagogue is where Dan Markel was a member of the community. There are people here who knew him, knew his sons. He brought them here. And Ruth today wanted to share her journey and amplify the voices of homicide survivors. She talked about her new book, The Unveiling is what she called it. And she talked about the unveiling, the grief that you go through when you're a homicide survivor and you're going through a trial, what you face. I mean, there were people who were moved to tears tonight inside of this room listening to her journey. Take a listen to some of that she said just moments ago.
Unlike other losses, a homicide survivor quite often is numb because it's dealing with a sudden, violent death. So I described to you before, it took me 9 months until I unfroze myself. So I had that numbness. I definitely had the characteristic of the homicide survivor. They also have psychological trauma, grief, and they're also confronted with all the issues related to the autopsies and the medical examiners. We are privileged in one sense, believe it or not, how horrific our story is. We didn't see anything. Now remember, many murders, the family sees stuff, right? So I don't have a visual.
Ruth was speaking to people here on the eve of opening statements in the third trial that she is going to have to go through with her family. Again, that book, The Unveiling, A Mother's Reflection on Murder, Grief, and Trial Life, is what she was letting people either buy or sign. And she says she's going to be there inside of the courtroom, Vinny, for every day that she can. She also said to tell you hello. She talked about all the platforms that she's been grateful to be on to share this journey, but really pushing for justice for Dan.
Absolutely, and it's unreal that the timing of this, right? The night before, because we didn't know how long it was going to take to pick a jury in this case. Many thought it would take a little bit longer. She also, though, pushed for a bill to be passed. What can you tell us about that?
That was a really informative part of tonight. She detailed this bill that came out of her frustration with trying to see her grandsons. She mentioned to us today that it had been 6 years at one point that she had gone without seeing the only connection she still had to her slain son. And this was due to the fact that she couldn't convince the mother of the children, Wendy Adelson, to allow them to see her grandsons. And she actually went to the legislature legislation here in America. She's from Toronto, Canada, and she was told in order to fix this, you're going to need to try and get a bill out there to protect grandparents' rights. So here's a look at the Markel Act here in Florida that was signed by Governor Ron DeSantis last year, and it talks about grandparents being able to petition the courts for rights, for visitation rights, which isn't automatic. Some people don't know that, but grandparents don't automatically have parental rights or access rights to their grandchildren once their child is no longer around. But in a situation where there is either a criminal or civil court that has deemed the other living parent to have had something to do with the death of the parent that grandparent is the parent of, they then can petition for those visitation rights. She has done that, and she talked about the times that she has been able to see them. 3 visits. She said the first 2 were amicable. The third one, she said, was a bit more challenging. It's been since Charlie Adelson, their uncle, has been behind bars. She said those boys, she believes now, they do understand that part of it, that their uncle is now behind bars, but she doesn't know how much they know or to what extent.
Well, to me, that whole situation speaks ton about character. You know, you ask me, what kind of person or what kind of family could potentially order the hit of the parent, the father of these little kids? It would be the same kind of people that would deny visitation with the surviving grandparents of a father who was brutally murdered. I mean, I don't understand that. It gets me aggravated. But let's talk about jury selection today. What did we hear during today, the final day of jury selection?
Yeah, the final day, we thought opening statements, or the judge actually was hoping that opening statements would start this afternoon, but it took a bit longer to get a fresh amount of jurors or potential jurors who would be able to survive the strikes in this case. So it took until the end of the day, but they were able to seat a jury of 12 plus 3 alternates. And as far as the breakdown, what we could tell, there are 7 women on this jury, 8 men. We don't know who the alternates are yet. We could tell just based on appearance that 6 of them appear to be African American, 9 appear to be white. We also know that the judge said he's going to allow these jurors to ask questions during this process. Now, they were asked a lot of questions during this selection process, this voir dire, by both the prosecution and the defense, of course, but a lot of it centered on whether or not they felt it would be fair for co-conspirators to be charged the same, like what we are going to see here. Here's first Prosecutor Georgia Kappelman and then defense attorney Josh Dubin asking those questions to this jury.
If 2 people gone out and 1 murdered and the other, look, they both went together, they talked about it, they plotted together, and they deserve to be punished for that. And I think that just because the person ain't got away, did not murder the perpetrator, you was there.
And for him,
Can I ask a question about that?
yes.
What you're asking is legal concept. The way we're answering is it right or wrong? So my question to you would be, what is the statute about what the expectations would be?
The judge is going to give you all the law that you need.
Knowing that this case obviously has taken on some significance in the community, how many of you would feel uncomfortable if the state didn't meet their burden, even though it might be an unpopular decision in the community? How many of you would be uncomfortable, given the public scrutiny, saying, I sat as a juror and I found Mr. Adelson not guilty?
Now, Attorney Dubin there, he is one of several attorneys for Charlie Adelson, and he's the one who has in his background that he's the head of a jury consultation firm. So what they do is figure out how to pick juries, how to read jurors' faces, potential jurors, and we're seeing that on display through this voir dire process. They had a bit of a skepticism, Vinny, about whether or not these jurors should be able to ask their own questions, how the judge is going to handle it if their question couldn't
Lawyers
be answered.
hate that
but
because
it
they want
seems
to be
that
in
the judge
control.
is still going to let that go forward.
Lawyers hate that because they can't be in control. I love it because the jury's got to figure out the truth. Let them ask questions. If it's a question that's not proper, then it won't get asked. Okay, quickly, what can we expect tomorrow?
Tomorrow, the prosecution is going to start their case in chief with crime scene witnesses. They may start with the neighbor who heard the gunshot rushed outside to see Dan Markel inside of his car dying. That's how they've started previous trials. But we also expect the medical examiner to testify. And that's, of course, after those opening statements at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern.
All right, Julie Janae in Tallahassee, thank you so much. Big case. Let's bring back in our think tank Daryl Cohen, Molly Palmer, Josh Schiffer. We don't have a ton of time here. I just want to hear, what is the defense going to say to this jury tomorrow? Let's start from Josh.
It's going to be, it's not me, it's them. It's going to be
them. Who's them?
Divide and conquer. Anybody else. It's my mother, father, brother, sister, cousin.
Donna?
It ain't me.
Okay.
Catherine, I think it's going to be there's going to be a big fixation on credibility. We have all these people that have been convicted, taken guilty pleas, found guilty at trial. They're the criminals, not my client.
I'm just a dentist, says my lawyer. All I am is a dentist. I cannot orchestrate anything other than perhaps a crown or perhaps a root canal.